so she accrued cultural capital, finding out about the world through that. John, for example, poor John didn't have membership, didn't have an extensive social network, had a less extensive social network offline than the other two also. And so his knowledge of the world was much less. So the ways in which capital operates, very salient, and I think this is an area that we need to do some work with children around in terms of raising their understanding of what happens when you exclude other children from some of these practices. This is no different to offline playground play, of course, in the way that children include and exclude other children for a whole variety of reasons. In terms of that relationship between the Disney Emporium online and offline, you can see here the range of offline toys that you can buy related to Club Penguin, which includes puffles, keyrings, t-shirts, and so on. So the children at Montini talked about buying, for example, the jiu-jitsu cards at the local shop. That unlocked coins online and enabled them to accrue a greater amount of goods in the online world. And as Lauert suggests, this geography of play is the sum of this core and peripheral play practices that consist of both physical and digital elements of tactile and non-tactile. And I think, for early years educators, this is going to be an increasing phenomena in the years ahead. The interchange between online and offline toys. We're going to see an increasing amount, I think, of toys in which you purchase the toy in the physical domain, and then you can unlock a whole range of things in the online domain. And Disney are ahead of the field in this, so they've got a virtual world called Pixie Hollow. It's aimed, as you can see, at girls, with the pinks and purples here. And you can see their bracelet, and this is using clickable technologies. So children have the bracelets in the physical world, and they can just connect with another child who's got a similar bracelet. It connects them, they become friends, and then their avatars become friends in the online world. So, complex relationship between that online and offline in play. And the children moving seamlessly across those domains. So, I just want to talk briefly about the commercial practices, because I know that early years educators are worried about the way in which children are becoming enculturated in these commercial worlds from a young age. But I draw from the work of Daniel Cook and Alison Pugh, who talk about the way in which we need to see commercial world and childhood as co-constitutive. It's not as if there's a big commercial world out there that then children are framed and in some ways have no agency around. There are ways in which children can make choices in this world. In terms of Club Penguin, the kinds of commercial practices included playing games that earned them virtual coins, looking through catalogues then in the virtual world to find out what they could spend their virtual coins on, and then actually purchasing those, buying food for their puffles, reviewing purchases. Once they've got their purchases, they could look on their avatars' wardrobes, inventories, and cycle through their purchases, and choose and change their avatars' clothes and so on. Some of them using online cheats to gain coins. And Disney, I think, in some ways know this goes on. Sometimes they ban penguins, their avatars, if they find them doing it. But in some senses, they let them go, they let this discourse, these practices happen, because it's a way of maintaining children's interest in the play. Children then buying toys and games that unlock coins in the virtual world, buying toys and artifacts from the Club Penguin website, and then from merchandise outlets, often in shopping malls and so on. So a whole range of ways in which they can buy, both online and offline. Buying collector's cards, as I've said, for the children in Montini who come from a working class area, the shopping mall where they can get the Disney store, is miles away from them. So they tended to get the Club Penguin artifacts that they could get at the local supermarkets. Selling unwanted Club Penguin items on eBay, and then swaps around this. So a whole range of commercial practices related to the use of Club Penguin. So, but as Pugh says, that we need to, she talks about an economy of dignity. But actually what happens when parents and children buy some of these is these are cultural proxies for belonging in social networks. So it's not that the economic issues are driving the children's use, and it's not that they're greedy for possessions, although that might be the case for some children, but for most children it's about being driven by a belonging within a particular network. You might think that's quite sad that they have to be driven by these purchases, but nevertheless that's just the way it is. So several streams, as Molesworth and Denegri-Knott talk about, several streams of consumer research actually challenge these constructions of consumption as utility maximising enterprise and favour instead that symbolic culture-making role. So for Csikszentmihalyi, these goods enable an understanding of the self by providing symbolic containers for social relations. Goods occupying in the mind what would otherwise be an intolerable vagueness of purpose, they become anchors for human consciousness. So that's not to allay the fears that children are operating in a commercial world. We know that these advertisers are often quite predatory in the way that they target children. So, for example, when those, I can't remember the names of those horses with long hair now, Little Pony, when the producers developed that concept, they did extensive marketing and asking girls what was the last thing they thought about before they went to sleep. Many of them said horses. So they combined that with the love of sort of dolls and long hair and promoted that artifact. We know that Pokemon use that notion of you've got to catch them all to catch children into this sort of collector's nexus. So we know that these are used to leverage children into a whole range of commercial practices that are beneficial for the commercialised world. But I think we need to also think about the other side as well, that they also anchor human consciousness and they lock children into. So when we see children seeking some of these goods online, it's about becoming party to that. And again, I think there's work there for early years educators with parents to get children to look critically at some of these practices. And this is again from Alison Pugh, who talks about consumption is neither capitulation, since children actively reinterpret and contest these store-bought meanings. And we know, everyone knows of stories of children, for example, abusing Barbie dolls and so on. So children being transgressive around the kinds of products and discourses that are embedded in those products. They don't use them in the way that producers intended them to. But children invent and rely on many symbolic tokens to vie for their dignity, this notion of the economy of dignity. And from their perspective, corporate marketing acts as a powerful mint, always churning out shinier coinage, but not always dictating whether or how those tokens are used. So in that work on Club Penguin, we can see that, drawing from Goffman's notion of frames, those principles of structure that underpin our interactions online, they operate across both online and offline domains. And I think the attraction of virtual worlds for children relates both to the games and the opportunities for social networking, very much important for these young children as much as it is for the teenagers and adults, using Facebook. So, that's a whistle-stop tour through virtual worlds, but I do now want to move on to look at Facebook. I'm sure it needs no introduction to Facebook, so if you haven't got a Facebook site, at least I'm sure you'll have heard of it. In the online survey, 157 children in Montini answered, 57% suggested that they used Facebook. And for the 5 to 8-year-olds, again, just over 53% of the 5 to 8-year-olds were using Facebook. When we asked did they have their own Facebook or MySpace page, that number dropped, but it was a third of 5 to 11-year-olds who said that they had their own Facebook and MySpace page. And again, not much difference between that age range and the 5 to 8-year-olds. 30% of 5 to 8-year-olds who had their own Facebook, MySpace page. Now the age range, obviously you have to be 13 to log into Facebook. this was an area I was interested to know, how are they getting on Facebook in the first place, although we know that there are ways around sort of getting passwords, but also what were they doing on Facebook at such a young age. This is small text, I will read it. I talked to Kate, and I said, Kate, have you got your own Facebook page? Yes, she said. How old are you? 7. Who set up the page for you? Me, she said. My mum let me through. Does she know about it? Yeah, she does. And what do you do on it? You can chat and play games, and you can post stuff on your wall, and you can make friends with people on it. And what do you do that? Who do you chat with? And she said, well, some of my friends have got one, Hannah and Nina, in my year, and there's lots of people have it. And how many friends have you got? 59 on Facebook, she said. Which is about 3 times the number of friends I've got. So, deliberately, I have to say, I can't cope with anyone other than my family knowing my Facebook page and trying to manage that professional family identity. I'm sure you all do it really well. And I said, well, why do you like it? She said, well, I don't really know how to say that, but I can tell you how I got it. And you can see there that her mum had one, and so she wanted one. So what I found with these young children was that it was their parents, primarily mums, I have to say, who were setting up the Facebook pages and monitoring the children's use of it and accepting, so they'd accept who their children could talk to and who they could befriend online. So I went on to ask Kate, what are the things that you do when you go on it? And she said, you play games, and there's lots of stuff. There's a Happy Pets, Pet Society, Cityville, and Farmville. And she does play on all of those. And you send people messages. Yes, she said. And what sort of messages do you send? By this time, she was fed up and obviously thought that I was just, asking the most stupid questions, saying, well, we just say hiya, and we start like a normal conversation, as if we were talking to each other, of course. But what was attracting to many of these young children was this Farmville, which has 26 million players online daily. And it's not a particularly attractive virtual world, but what's attractive about it is the way it locks into the affordance of Facebook. So you can invite your friends to be neighbours on your little plot. You have a plot on Farmville, you raise cows and so on. But if you have your neighbours working as a community, you can increase the value of your stock and your experience on Farmville. So it's sort of clearly, it's sort of locking the communities into these social practices. So the attraction of Facebook for these young children are that they're embedding themselves in a family practice. I think it's similar to when we see them watching TV with family members online. They want to be part of the family. They want to be part of the discourses that they see operating out there. It also enables them to continue practices that they used to use with Instant Messenger, for example. These are now obviously morphing, converging onto Facebook. So you don't use IM, you go onto Facebook to chat. And it enables them to lock into virtual worlds in a way that we've seen the use of Club Penguin. So that's YouTube, virtual worlds and Facebook. And I just want to close by thinking about what are the implications then for children's offline and online friendships, if these are the complicated domains in which they're operating. This is a sociogram that we asked the children to complete. So this is one class, it's a Year 2 class with children aged 6 and 7, and you can see for each circle that represents a child in this class. We asked them to draw a black line to children that they played with in the playground, offline, and a red line to children that they played with online. And then looked at these to look at what were the patterns of online and offline friendships. So I'll just give you some of the sort of key findings. First was that actually people talk about children being asocial, more asocial if they play online and the more media use. We found the opposite. So just for that year group, children who had only offline friends had an average of 13 friends each, whereas children who had both online and offline friends had an average of 22 friends each. And also what was interesting interesting is that the gender makeup of children's groups changed in relation to the more online friends that they had. So you can see there's a slight increase. So those boys that played with both online and offline played with 2 more girls than those, on average, than those who only played offline. I'm not going to have time to read through these interviews, but we interviewed a number of children about their online and offline play. And I'll skip through the interviews, just because I have run out of time, and I'll just give you some of the sort of top lines from these interviews, which was that I was worried in this data, were the children who had fewer online friends being excluded from, offline friendship groups. And so I interviewed the children who were at each end of that spectrum. So children who had most online friends in the class and children who had least. And what we found was that actually the children who were not part of those online networks did not notice there was no significant impact on their playground play. So it seems as if what this online play was doing was thickening existing social ties, but not necessarily excluding other social ties. Also what was interesting is children were making judgments about who they played with online based on their offline behaviour. So Carl had said Casey was a bit naughty and he didn't want to be his online friend because he shouted and sweared in the playground. And I said, did he ever ask to be your friend on the internet? About 5 times. Yeah. And Carl said, sorry, I don't want to get banned. What did he say? Carl said, please. And I said, no, because I don't want to get banned. I want to play nice with my friends. Did that make Casey change? I asked. No, he's still hurting people and he's still swearing when we go around to play football. But interesting that children were making decisions about those online friends, through those offline antisocial behaviours. So it's having more impact on children's online networks than their offline networks in this particular case study, and that's something that I want to look at in the next stage of my research. So we can see that in relation to online and offline play, how complex it is. Children move from the playground to the virtual worlds, then onto Facebook, YouTube, Club Penguin PlayStation, where they're playing online and offline, and then back to the playground. It's a very complex, circular, and iterative world in which they're operating. And I think what's important to note is that what they're doing online inevitably has an impact on their daily lives. So Thomas and Seeley Brown talk about the power of the play of imagination is in its ability to break traditional frames and dichotomies, and to allow us to explore plays where fantasy and play are no longer subordinated to reality and work. And we're able to find rich ways of identifying with each other. But that ability to play imaginatively and see experience from different vantage points provides a new set of tools for imagination and innovative thinking. So what are children taking from this online play into their offline worlds? So to conclude, I think your children's online practices are driven by what Martin and Hamilton call ruling passions, their orientation to games, their search for humour, that phantasmagoric and transgressive play that we know is attractive to young children, this desire for full family membership. For those children with older siblings, it's about that aspirational play. They want to be like their older brothers and sisters and do the kinds of things that they do. And their desire for that place, their place within that peer network. And I think that online and offline relationships are significant for young children in relation to play, and I've talked about those genres moving across. In relation to literacy practices, those literacy practices move across. Texts, what are they understanding about those distributed narratives across media? Identity, and I've talked about the ways in which their identity both remain the same and change for older children more readily across those domains. Capital and social relationships. And so I think the implications are that we do need to be sensitive to those children who do have fewer online networks. I didn't find any negativity so far in my data, but that's not to say it's not there. It might be there in other schools, in other contexts. We need to engage children in reflections on internet safety, obviously, and management of information. The children at Monty, their parents were monitoring their use of Facebook. That might not always be the case, and how can children safely navigate these spaces. But embed, these ruling passions in the early years curriculum in order to motivate learning. And so I've not mapped out much of the territory, but certainly some of the territory. And if you want copies of any of the slides of today's talk or any of the papers I've written about some of these aspects of my research, then please feel free to contact me. So thank you very much. Questions or comments on aspects of the talk?
It's Friday.
Yeah. Actually, like Friday.
No, we have actually seen with. I do have one. The children that we study, the little boy that we talking about,
yes, the child that was watching YouTube. Yes, he was an only child. Yes.
Were there a lot of only children, or were there, when you were studying, more only children, or families with two or more children?
No, two of the children were only children in those case studies, and two had younger siblings. One had older siblings, and one had a younger sibling. And so, generally we've studied, over 2,000 families, and there's a real range of family structures. And what we found with children who have older siblings is obviously that aspirational move to technologies that their older siblings are using. And those for younger siblings, they're inducting their younger siblings into some of these practices.
What time would you be spending doing sort of thing per day week?
Yes, I've not looked at children's use of virtual worlds. The 2005 study I did of over 1,800 families looked at children's use of media, and we found that generally children were looking at screen media for around 2 hours per day on average. There was a small minority of children who were watching excessive amounts, but it was a small minority. What we found was the majority of children got bored with one particular media, and moved on. And we found that actually for the under 6 group, the most popular activity during the day was playing with physical toys, in the playroom or lounge, and not online practices. So around 2 hours, and that correlates with some of the American studies as well. So that's not to say that some children aren't watching excessive amounts. There is a small minority of children who are, and it's obviously we need to work with those parents. But generally, we found children self-select, across media.